William Lee is going to help us break this down, chief economist at the Milken Institute, for a closer look at the Chinese economy. Good to see you, sir. I don't know what to think. Like, on one hand, the Chinese economy has problems, but on the other hand, it doesn't have problems. It's just kind of on its own path to recovery, right?
Well, Phil, if you look at the overall aggregate numbers, it's really remarkable how well the Chinese economy seems to be coming out of its sputtering kind of lockdown and non-lockdown kind of policies. And I think one thing that I noticed when I looked through the data was how uneven the recovery seems to be. For example, industrial output, yes, turned up quite nicely, but most of that was coal production. If you look at electricity generation, that fell quite a bit. And in a modern industrial economy like China, really the main indicator of how well industry is doing is how much electricity is using. And so for me, there's still quite a bit of weakness underlying that recovery. And really the policies have to be directed toward evening out the recovery, helping the retail sector, especially given all of the off and on lockdowns that are going on around the country, not just Shanghai and Beijing.
Do the lockdowns matter? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's had that big of an economic impact, at least in the long run, I know we report on it, of course, but these numbers, statistically speaking, seem to show that things are relatively stable in China.
Well, retail sales did fall off the cliff, so there is an impact from the lockdowns. But I think you're right in the sense that over the medium term, as the policies kick in, as support policies kick in, we would expect to see a revival of the retail sector, the service sector, small businesses, and most importantly, employment. Because as your reporter said, the unemployment rate, right, has held up remarkably well, but it's uneven. The youth unemployment is well over 18, almost 20%. And so young college graduates are having a very hard time finding a job. So again, we need the economy to come back online again and come back online in a predictable and steady fashion.
What do you think post-COVID looks like for China? And they're still in the middle, obviously, of these rolling lockdowns, but it feels like things are getting better, so knock on wood. But what does the next 3 to 6 months look like? Do we see more lockdowns or less lockdowns, or more opening up or more closing?
I guess the best way to answer that question is, how does post-COVID China compare with post-COVID rest of the world? And I think there, the differences in policies start to come into focus in the sense that a lot of the rest of the world, because of their vaccination policies, are willing to live with a lot more cases of COVID, mild as they are, whereas China is not willing to do so. And I think that is the source of the divergence going forward. So yes, I think China will recover quite nicely, but over that short term, over the next 3 to 6 months, I think there's going to be a lot of mismatches in where the supply chain needs to link up with the rest of the world.
There was some concern when this conflict in Ukraine started. You know, obviously China and Russia have been quite friendly with each other, and the rest of the world perhaps has a different opinion. And it seems like China has stayed relatively neutral throughout most of this conflict. Everything normal, or is there something underneath?
Well, Phil, I've said, I think on your program and others here in CGTN a number of times, this is a great opportunity for China to really act as peacemaker, to bring the two sides to the peace talk table and to try to end the conflict and restore the global supply chain, especially the export of wheat to the critical wheat demand that's in the emerging markets, and energy that's so much in demand in Europe. And I think China can do a lot more in a proactive way to bring both sides to the table.
Well, they might be listening to you as you speak, so we shall see in the coming days. William, always good to see you. Thank you for your insights, chief economist at the Milken Institute. All right, excellent stuff.